too many people doing it, there isn't any way to enforce it. And you can't really lock out file sharing either through things like DRM, because that really alters the ability of people to use what they've purchased, the content that they've purchased, the way that they want to. DRM prevents you from moving your MP3s from your iPhone to your car, or whatever it is you actually want to do with it after you've paid for it. These two things, they don't really fit. They're based on the old model of monetizing information, and they don't really fit. So why don't they fit? They don't fit because our economy, the economy that we are used to, is based on supply and demand. And I'm sure everybody knows what that is, so I'm not going to talk about that. And supply and demand is based on scarcity. That's typically so scarcity is a little bit, more rare to talk about than supply and demand. But it is the idea that there is only so much of any given thing. There's only so much supply for any given demand. And that drives prices up or down respectively. This doesn't apply to information. If I make a copy of an MP3, I have in no way reduced the utility, the functionality of the original MP3. It's still just as good. Whereas if I steal your car, it's not as good. You don't have that car anymore. So what we're talking about here is a fundamentally different kind of economy that we need. The time between when you release something to the internet and when it can be shared to everyone is so short that you can really only sell a piece of information once, one time, to one user. One time, and after that, they can release it to everybody. And if they can do it, it's a pretty good assumption that somebody will. So how did we get here? How did we get ourselves into this situation? Well, to tell you the truth, it's kind of a modern thing. Some people would say that this is a problem that's really only existed, or the situation has really only existed this way for 100 years, some people would say more. But really what we're talking about is, at some point in time, we took the ethereal concept of information, and we as a society figured out how to make it physical. We figured out how to take stories and spoken word and put them into books, and how to take images and put them into photos, and how to take sound and put them into recordings. But before that, for essentially all of time, these things were, these ethereal things up here. How do you bottle an image? How do you do anything like that without, photographing? So information is once again, now that we have the internet, removed from its physical shackles. It is once again free to be ethereal. All right, so I told you guys a whole bunch about what information is not. It's not scarce, it's not physical. But, well, what is it? Before we can really talk about that, we need sort of a metaphor in order to be able to discuss it. Because of the ethereal nature of information, it gets to be very difficult to talk about, and even harder for me to draw slides. So I like to think about information as a gas. It's not a perfect metaphor, but it's pretty good. So if we think about the internet as, let's say a room, let's say this room. The internet is like one giant room with everybody in the world standing. So if this represents the internet, this room that we have right now, then let's say this represents some piece of content, some piece of information. An MP3, a new video game, a song, or a movie, whatever it is. So if I want to share this with somebody, let's say you just bought this MP3, and I give it to you. Oh, no. But now it's out there. Now everyone can get it. Everyone can have access to that information, to that gas. And there's no way for me to get it back. There's no way for me to, tell you, don't share this with everyone else in the room. It would be ridiculous for us. So how do we possibly make money on something so ethereal? Well, again, if we look to history, we can actually find some answers. Like I said, you can only sell something once. You can only sell a piece of information once. But that isn't to say that you can't sell it to a lot of people all at once. And that is an experience. Oh, wait, no, sorry. An experience, a concert, a show, a baseball game, anything that you go to, if there's anything that the numbers, the statistics on the sales of various different things over the last 10 years have shown, is that people are more than willing to pay for experience, much more than they're willing to pay for albums or movies or anything like that, because the ability to share them is so easy, and the ability to consume them in your own home is so easy. The experience is being elevated. It's being made into this new alternate thing. People are very willing to be there when that information is released. They want to be able to say that I was there, I breathed in that first breath. And in some cases, they actually want to be the person, the one doing the streaming. The person who says, not only was I there, but you can experience this experience secondhand through me. I am rebottling this information, this gas, and redistributing it out through the internet. Next. So another way is one of my favorites. This is actually how I make money. If you want to make money on information, you can do so not just by selling the experience of it, but you can do so by being paid to create information for somebody else. Selling information is very difficult, as I've said, but there are tons and tons of people who get paid to create information. You don't buy a graphic design. You pay a graphic designer to create the design for you. You don't buy a piece of code. You pay a software engineer to build the code that you need. And this is the direction that we are really headed. If you want to make money on information, don't sell it. Sell the service of creating it, because that is where the money is. And there's some pretty good examples of this. So again, if we look into history, we can sort of see that there are. When I talk about this, almost invariably, what people bring up to me is that this is all well and good, but what about art? What about real art? A graphic design might be beautiful, but it's not somebody's true artistic expression. How could we possibly hope to have artists in a world where you can't sell art? And for that, I, again, have to look back into history. In history, there is a thing called patronage, which is the idea that monarchs or other rich type people would bestow upon the poor starving artists oodles and oodles of money to create some piece of content, some piece of art to be given to the world. Nobody was buying Beethoven's pieces or Mozart's pieces. They were being commissioned by patronage from monarchs and then given for free to the world. And if we look at the modern world, we have some analogs to that. Now, we don't really have monarchs who are investing in rock musicians or anything like that. But we do have the next best thing, which is corporations. One of my favorite examples of this is a band called Pamplemousse. Does anybody know Pamplemousse? Okay. Well, Pamplemousse got famous on YouTube by giving away their content, by making really, really cool music and really, really cool music videos, and just absolutely giving it away. Anyone who wants to see it can see it for free on YouTube. They then got famous, garnered themselves an audience, and were approached by Nissan to make a car commercial. Now, Nissan is like the monarch in this situation, and they bestowed upon Pamplemousse this oodles and oodles of money to create a piece of content which was then given for free to the world. Largely for the same thing. Monarchs wanted to have content created to show off how great they were, and that's what corporations want too. There's also Kickstarter, but that's kind of a different story. We can talk about that later if anybody wants to hear about that. So, we've learned about how to sell the service of creating information. But what about the people who are buying it, the people who need those graphic designs, the people who need that software design? Well, software, again, this is my answer. Software is, at its essence, it's information. It can be shared, it can be leaked, it can be, spread around the internet just like an MP3. And it's very important in some situations that it is not. If the secret sauce, the code that makes Facebook, got leaked on the internet, any one of their competitors would be able to replicate what they do. Or maybe a better example is Google. If Google's search algorithm got leaked, anybody could just rip it off. So it's very important that they keep it safe, they keep it bottled up. And they do. And in this example, the example in here is keeping the information bottled up. It's contained. Google has that information, but they never share it. It's connected to the internet, but it's not on the internet. You can't go and download it. They would never sell an instance. They would never sell a copy of their algorithm to one person and say, okay, shh, don't share that with anybody else. That would be ludicrous. So why would we expect that we could do that at a smaller level if it doesn't work at a larger level? So again, you can see here that by keeping your information contained, you can still have that information do work for you, provide a service, and make money on that service. And it doesn't have to be software. The information that you keep bottled up in your work zeppelin could be, a particular workflow or some kind of, interpersonal work that you guys do, or really any process or information that you use which allows you to provide a service which is valuable to others is an example of this. So, this is where it gets really interesting. How many of you guys know what a 3D printer is? Okay, pretty much everybody. Good. So a 3D printer is a device which prints out things. It prints out artifacts. And this is why the subject that I've chosen to talk today is so absolutely crucial to everybody, whether you're a content creator or not, whether you're somebody trying to sell information or not. Everybody is going to be affected by this because 3D printers are coming up. They're right around the corner. They're being used by hackers and makers and small companies right now. 3D printers are going to make it so that everything that you buy, your shoes, your shirt, your car, your refrigerator, everything that is a physical thing that you buy is going to have all the same rules that I just listed out for you apply to. So all of the disruption that we've witnessed in the last 10 years for digital media is barreling down the pipe right now for the rest of our physical manufacturing industries. You won't be able to say, hey, I'm Nike, I make these sneakers, I'm the only one who can do it. Because if you sell one sneaker, somebody can scan it and print out a copy. So Nike is going to have to change what they do. It's just fact. There isn't really any way to stop it, and there isn't really any reason why it should be stopped. What we need to do, and what big corporations need to do, is what corporations and people have always needed to do as economics and technology have changed the world. You need to change or die. So that's all. I know that's very ominous, but you can check out more of my doodles and stuff online at Neuman.com or here or email. Yeah. So good
question.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3D scanner. Okay, it can create a scan of it, a 3D embodiment of it, but you can't necessarily resource the same like fabric or materials or that sort of thing. So how would that necessarily pose a threat?
Well, it's not going to be exactly the same, but just like an MP3 isn't exactly the same as a CD, but we're going to get to the point. At first the technology is going to be rudimentary. Right now, 3D printers can only print 2 or 3 kinds of materials at any one 3D printer. But there are some printers that can print fabrics. There are some printers that can print plastics. There are some that can print metals. There are some that can even print living cells. So yes, you're right. It might not be exactly the same right away, but it's coming. It's going to happen. I think that it's going to shift our industry more towards sort of a supply infrastructure. That those people who control the liquid fabric or the liquid plastic or the liquid metal, the materials that are going to be printed, are going to be the oil barons and tycoons of our world. Because just like we need right now, we need oil to move the cars that do everything. We're going to need plastic to print out the stuff that we need to do that. Yes?
Do you see the like Nike, for example? If you can just print out a copy of their shoes, do you see like a sustainable business model for them moving forward moving to one where they will like personalize a design for you, or they'll sell the service of doing a design for an individual.
Exactly.
Resulting in like a more personalized product sector?
I think, honestly, I think that's their only option. I think that big companies like that are going to have to provide absolutely cutting edge ability to design custom stuff for you.
What do you think this will do to like the innovation curve in the product sphere?
I think it's going to do, I mean, again, I think that we're going to see things in the physical world, which we've already been seeing in the digital world. I think that you're going to see the two alternating sides of this is going to be, you know, like we see in software and media, there's going to be like the walled garden approach, where somebody like Nike might say, okay, you can subscribe to our sneaker service and get our custom designed sneakers every month delivered to your doorstep. Or there's going to be the completely open approach, where it'll be like, all right, I'm going to go online and download, you know, a program, and I'll run it, and I'll have to compile it myself. And, you know, so it'll be sort of like Mac and Linux, but for physical things. Yeah.
Do you see the sort of 3D printer that you're describing as being like the next generation's factories in China? I mean, it seems like a pretty similar parallel path.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
So, I mean, factories in China, you can go to them and you can say, I want you to make this product for me, and they'll make it really cheap and everything. Or they can also say, I want you to copy this refrigerator and make it cheaper and use cheaper products and cheaper labor and everything. And it seems pretty similar to like a 3D printer, but with a very inexpensive workforce. And it almost seems like a little bit, I don't know, I mean, do you see the parallels there, or am I thinking of it?
I see what you mean. I don't think it's going to work out exactly like that. I think it's going to be more of a tool to strike out against the corporation. I mean, it's sort of like the idea is with a refrigerator. You know, I'm really tired of buying refrigerators every 2 years. A refrigerator should last much longer than this. Instead of continuing to buy a new refrigerator every 2 years from Kenmore, I'm going to say screw that. And I'm going to go online and I'm going to find somebody who's an engineer and be like, look, I'll pay you $200 to create an open source refrigerator design that I can just print out. And then you share that design with everyone on the internet, and then they can print out refrigerators as they see fit. That's not to say that there won't be people who won't go out and buy something and say like, oh, well, you know, I really like this chair. I'm going to scan it and duplicate it and then sell it off my porch. I mean, I don't know. I think people will use it a multitude of different ways.
Yeah, it's a situation where you can print anything you want as your own design. Why would you scan it and print somebody else's?
Not everyone can design everything that they need. Not everyone is a shoe designer or a refrigerator engineer. And I'm sure there are some refrigerator engineers in here.
Isn't there an issue with how expensive the printers are? Like right now, I know, MakerBot, for instance, which is the only consumer one I know personally, and those are like $1,000 to $5,000 or whatever.
Right.
And of course you can make with that, and then those are also, yay big. So if you were to make a refrigerator, it would take you like a week to make it, and it would be all plastic. So what is the kind of like, I mean, I know there's been a lot of technological advancement within 3D printers, but how far is it that we have to go before you can literally in your home afford to actually make this with the right products and materials and all that kind of stuff?
Not as far as you would think. 10 years ago, a 3D printer was this big. Minimum. That was like the smallest, most amazing one. They were only owned by essentially like NASA and car companies and people who needed to do what's called rapid prototyping. So if you needed to print out, like if you were designing a new exhaust manifold for your car, instead of getting something built and cast in metal so that you could actually test it, you could just print one out in plastic and test it real quick. It doesn't matter if it melts after 5 minutes if you get your data. But over the last 10 years, it's gone from this big, only being able to print one material, that crappy gray plastic, to now, like I said, there's a variety of all these different ones. They're getting smaller. MakerBot now has, in the last 6 months alone, 3 competitors that are making them. I mean, it's just where we're headed. Think about how fast technology moves when there's people willing to spend money on it. And
answer to things like craft and process, like for instance, tanning a leather a certain way, or a plant, like trimming a plant a certain way, you know, like certain natural elements I really don't think the preacher can really talk to us.
Well, and I think you're probably right. And I think we're already seeing, long before we even have, 3D printers really doing what I'm thinking they're going to, we're already seeing a sort of a swing back to more hand, at least in Brooklyn, especially. We're seeing a swing back against the globalization of everything. And we see that in food and in clothing. There's always going to be people who want to buy an artisan whatever, an artisan sneaker or an artisan pizza versus a Nike or a Domino's. And that's not going to change. Those things will still be around, and I think that some people will be able to be elevated sort of above the noise and remain, but that's going to be very few.
Do you think that's because people continue to have moral contradictions towards this, or is there really a limitation in what the functionality of a 3D printer can do?
I think if there's one thing Napster showed us is that people do not have any moral compunction against sharing. If anything, I think that people are really feel like they're being screwed by the existing system. We have to buy a song on vinyl, and then on cassette, and then on CD, and then on DVD, and then on MP3, and then on holographic whatever that's going to come in the future. And people are sick of paying for the same thing multiple times, and they're sick of paying way more than it. And I think that's the same for refrigerators as it is for MP3s.
Speaking of Napster and striking out at corporations, the MPAA and RIA didn't exactly go gently into that good night. Do you see parallels in this new ubiquitous manufacturing model?
So much. If we think that, we're seeing heavy legislation coming down on media is like this big. Nobody the world doesn't care that much about media as they care about cars, for example, or weapons, for example. So just imagine the kind of backlash that we're going to get legally from those companies that are in bed with the governments that make offers. It's going to be ridiculous. But ultimately, I don't think they can stop it.
Yes, I was touching a little bit on the legality of things as well, because it kind of seems like the death of intellectual property, and especially for artists as well. I get the mentality of not wanting to pay for things multiple times, but at the same time, if innovation is so easily copied, it kind of becomes less of an incentive to innovate and produce as well, as an artist, because you can definitely go after someone to pay you, commission you, and so forth. But if that monarch or as you were saying becomes inundated with legalities and they can't prevent reproductions of their work too, then it becomes less incentive for them in some ways to commission it, because it is, at the end of the day, they're doing that commission, corporations are doing it for profit. I was just curious about your ideas of copyright law and how, obviously it's a huge issue, right? It's a huge issue with music and Napster. I don't disagree that I think that iTunes and those things came too late. They didn't adopt behavior online. And I think there's a way to monetize behavior without giving it away for free that protects artists and corporations as well. Because at the end of the day, you can't just be putting out designs and then free will, anyone can copy this. If permitted that the technology's there and it's not cost prohibitive to have it in your house and all those things.
Well, it seems like you have a couple of questions. So first of all, as to why people would do it, why would anybody bother to make anything? People's motivations vary greatly. I don't know if I can give you an exactly straight answer to that question, but I can cite sort of the existing analogy, which is media And I can say that as the tools to create media have become much easier, much more available, which is analogous to tools to create refrigerators or speakers or whatever, the amount of media that's created is exploding. Even though musicians are able to sell music less now and are making less money on music sales, like, actually, I don't even know if that's necessary. But, okay. The amount of music that's being created, the amount of media that's being created is exponentially larger than was being created before the internet. To answer why that is, I would need another hour. You know, there's so many different possible reasons and so many different possible motivations. And I'm not a musician, so I don't know if I could necessarily answer that. But I can say, in software, is something that I have experience with. The motivation to create something is not necessarily to get monetary compensation from the thing, but again, in services. So there are certain open source software initiatives that give away software and then sell support. For example, an old example of this is Red Hat Linux. It was an open source, an open source operating system that was sold very, very cheaply or given away to large institutions like Bank of America. And then Bank of America paid Red Hat to support the software that they had just been given, to help them install it, to help them manage it, to help them keep it maintained. And I think that the same kind of thing can happen in other industries. You know, if you are designing and giving away a refrigerator, you could do the same thing. You could say, take my refrigerator for free, but when you need maintenance on it, like.
But aren't we a throwaway society? Do you think that people are willing to pay for maintenance on a refrigerator or a toaster or a microwave as opposed to just, buying a new toaster or buying a new microwave for $100? Like, what's the value there, right? Like, because there's a cost. It's cost prohibitive.
Right, especially if you can just melt down the fridge and print out another.
Yeah, right. Like it's cost prohibitive to then service something that you can create in your living room, or you could go then buy for very inexpensive. I mean, assuming that, of course, like making your own refrigerator is equivalent to go buying your own refrigerator.
The short answer is I don't know. I don't know exactly how people are going to do this, but I have racked my brain to think of a way that we could continue the way we're going and end up with a society that maintains intellectual property that isn't a complete Orwellian dystopia. I mean, essentially the only way that that can happen is if we shoot on sight people who share things illegally. Because there isn't any way to stop it digitally, the only way I could come up with to keep people from doing it is absolutely massive punishments. Something that is big enough that you are afraid to do it for fear of the off chance that you might be punished. And that's the only thing I can think of. Because there's no moral imperative, there's no technological imperative, there's no monetary imperative. Why the hell would you do it?
Yeah, it just seems like we're beating this.
Well, we'll print out again.
But I think it's the products that are already made much more cheaply than they were 50 years ago, 100 years ago, and I'm sure that manufacturers at the time had the exact same fears. And it's like, do you really go get your toaster fixed, or you just go to Target to get another one?
We aren't, right? We aren't getting like who gets their toaster
Right.
fixed. Like,
But my only point with that is that there are new possible businesses that are out there that are just waiting. They're just waiting to be discovered. They are scratching to get out from underneath the surface of this model that does not fit. And I mean, the model that we have right now is just busting at the seams. I mean, the people aren't following what is legally mandated anymore, and the government can't enforce it. So how can we keep going this way?
I mean, I think it might come down to if you're going to like such automation, it might actually monetization might come in like the exact reverse of that, which is like pure customization.
Yeah.
Right, where it's like the artisanal behavior or
Right.
like
That's
custom shoes, or like and whatever.
Selling the
Because
service.
otherwise we get into like a complete barter system, right, where we're just like bartering our services for promotion or whatever, and then we're not getting into any type of monetary exchange. And sharing open source. Like if everything becomes open source, then we kind of like lose industries. I mean, I'm not saying that's not going to happen. I think it's like a really interesting
topic, sorry, I'm like kind of taking over this conversation.
I have some recommended reading for you.